Morning, everyone. Thank you for being here. Day one was awesome. It was a day when we all painted what AI has come in to be. It has arrived indeed. But one thing that resonated with me yesterday, post the sessions, there were a lot of different leaders who came and spoke to us. And there was one resonating theme across all of them. All of them said, you know what? We actually thought that we had done a lot of great work in AI. But having come here, it doesn't appear to be. It looks as if there's so many other things that we could do. There are so many others who have actually taken a few steps ahead. There are so many things that others are thinking about that we have not thought about. And then there was this question, what else should we be doing? How should we be doing this? What are the steps that we should take up within the center that we have or within the global enterprise? And that's the question. That's the question that Nilesh and I here are just going to talk about. A few stories, a few art of the possible, things that can actually happen within your center here. But before we do that, some context setting. Right. We do know that all of the hype, the frenzy, the talk, the conversations have been about the technology providers, the computing powers and the LLMs and the models that are out there. But we also do know that the magic is in actually how they are being used. And that's what Andrew actually said. It will transform all the industries that it can potentially touch. We are seeing that transformation happen right before us. And if you look at the enterprises, they have indeed harnessed that capability today for productivity, for efficiency, for development, for all of the automation work that can actually happen. And we're seeing that today, right? Seeing all of what we see within the IBMs and the AstraZenecas, Google, Salesforce has claimed 35% of that development happens towards agentic. That we do see that. But then we also know that the true power of AI would actually get unleashed on the industry when it hits your products, when it matters to your customers, when it starts to change revenue models, when they change how we start to do that work. When we start digging and diving into that, we did see that there are a whole heap of AI-native organizations that have been born in the last 3 years, since 2022, who have come in, and they are the ones who are actually changing. The new Ubers and the Airbnbs of the AI world, and the new Netflixes of the AI world, and you see them. Harvey coming in. Harvey got evaluated at $5 billion a couple of weeks ago, right? That is immense, for example. So those are born AI, or what we call AI native. And that was one thing that we did see about. You see, the enterprises are thinking about adopting AI, about using that as a tool that they can give it in the hands of, let's go get some 1,000 Copilot licenses and put it in the hands of the developers. But that's not the way that the AI native organizations are thinking. So the first thing that we did was speak to one of them, and Amit Jain, co-founder, is somewhere right here with us, who took the trouble of talking to us about what that really means to buy AI native. We asked him a very simple question. What is the DNA of an AI native organization?
And this is what he had to say. About this is.
So what we did see was 3 things that he actually said. He said the DNA had to change. It is not about bolt-on AI. It is about organizations having to change their AI or change their DNA rather, by looking at changing the fundamental way that things are doing. So we looked at what enterprises are doing. So enterprises today are going ahead externally, looking at taking acquisitions. The case test acquisition was a great one because that was done to counter Harvey. Vodafone went and having, a lot of them for that matter, are going and having partnerships with either a hyperscaler or with a university or with academia. What they're not doing is to look within. And we feel that the answer is different. Nilesh strongly feels that the answer is different.
So I do believe that answer is different, and I think GCCs are the answer. So, we heard Steve say, I hope that Aristotle can answer our questions. My hope and belief is that GCCs will answer the AI question for our organizations, right? That's what I hope, and I think it's clearly on the path to being. So when a board or a CEO or a chairman of the board says, what is our AI strategy? They should first look to the GCCs because we have such examples of how companies have been changed. And why is that possible, right? We have the talent here, right? This is the hotbed of AI talent. We see that people are hungry to change the world. And we just have to create an environment and the leadership. Again, if you look at the video earlier, this is not a technology problem, this is a leadership problem. right? If we can provide the leadership and the environment to our people, we have the talent to make that change, right? The second thing, this is the only place where all the functions are working in the same building or neighboring buildings, right? Usually in most companies, those teams are separated, in different cities or across the world. So you own a view of end-to-end what the process should be and where the problems are, what are the bottlenecks, what can be automated. So you have a complete visibility to own the process, and a lot of companies already own the process. A lot of the GCCs already own the process. So you know exactly where AI can, where are the 10x improvements you can make. You are also, the headquarters are old, slow, very lethargic organizations, right? Whereas GCCs can be agile, move fast. We have the ability to experiment at a low cost and at speed, which again the companies cannot do it. So this is your path to show the direction to your organization. And you have done this before, right? We led the digital transformation revolution. We led the automation revolution. And now this is a once-in-a-decade chance to own the AI revolution and take the leadership, own it, and this is the way you can show the world that AI belongs in India and we can lead. So we looked at so Zinnov, we are a consulting company to core, so always we need a maturity framework of some kind, right? So we looked at organizations across GCCs. Where are they? There are 13% of the GCs are just kind of experimenting. Some have already moved forward. Majority are in this what we call the emerging. They've started to actually apply some use cases and started to take some initiative. 27% are actually now becoming strategic enablers. They are already moving their companies in the direction they need to move. And only 4% are what we call AI-First. But actually, it may sound like only 4%, but if you did the same survey across the globe for companies, I believe that number will be probably even lower, right? So GCs are already ahead. And in fact, we are doing a masterclass for the Vista private equity companies later today. And their numbers in that agentic AI frame, the last column, the transform, they're already 8%. So they're double of what the regular GCCs are. And we believe that's because there's a leadership which is there in the Vista equity portfolio companies. So you can actually move, and you don't have to get to the AI first pillar before you start making the change. Even if you are just starting out, you can show your companies that here is the talent, you have the leadership, you have the ability to move your company in the direction you want to go. So,
I'm not sure if any of you saw the shift. When we started the presentation, or the title of the presentation, we actually said AI-First GCCs. Now, what Nilesh is talking about is beyond that. We are not talking about AI-First GCCs. We are talking about AI-First GCCs who can transform the enterprise to be AI-First, drive the transformation not only within, but also for the enterprise. And that change should start from within. And the landscape for you is out there. You can actually take any of all of your processes. It could be the development process, a HR process, recruitment process, legal, it doesn't matter. You can take them, any of them, all of them, and start to reimagine that process. But don't think of this, and I'll take Vijay's example yesterday. He didn't think about just saying process recomposition. He says task recomposition. So look at it in the lens of how do you take a process? How do you decompose the tasks? How do you modularize it? So don't think of it in the lens of a BPM, where you just take the process and then automate that. You're talking about modularizing them and orchestration and agentic way of doing things. So we took two of them, right? We took two easy, but not simple ones to do. One was recruitment. And we sort of said, let's reimagine this a little bit. And we know the traditional recruitment. All of us have been there. And today, we continue to do that. Like a recruiter would call, there would be a person who comes in, schedules that on the calendar, go through the interview process, and then offer that person and so on. Now, we can completely reimagine that. In the world that I am thinking, we are talking about an agentic process. So there is initially an intake agent that describes your job description. There's a screening and a sourcing agent that actually gets the profile, screens them, and makes sure that they're already ranked in the order of preference. We are talking about a scheduling agent that gets the scheduling done, and then it's already there on the calendar. We are talking about then an interview agent who actually does the interviews with the candidates, and then potentially even do an offer. And in my world, the way the offer would look is like build your own offer. put the compensation, put the benefits, put the stock options, put what you have to do, and the candidates can actually make their own offer. Now, that would be not just a different process, but I would call that as an agentic hiring in the way that we do things. That's what it can do. So that has the potential to do it. And today, you don't have to. There are tools out there that can actually enable you to do right this. We took the development process.
So obviously, most of us work on development. And, funny thing is, while we were working on the slide, this slide is already outdated. Right? We just heard about Devin.ai. I don't know if you guys have looked at it or not. If you just check it out, it's a company called Cognizant. I think it just came out about a year ago. It's already worth about $4 billion. It's 100% software development. You don't need a software engineer, right? So basically, you give it the requirements, it generates the entire code for you. And Goldman Sachs is already using it today. So, you can use GenAI to write your requirements, do the coding. You can use Cursor to get about 40% productivity gains. But what if you could have 100% productivity gain by replacing your engineer? What does that mean? I think yesterday, Vijay talked about what does it mean for our jobs. Obviously, you can be even husbands don't have to be, can be AI, right? But we can do more, impactful work. We can think about how we can solve human problems beyond what the computers can do. So it doesn't mean we don't have any work to do. We just have to do high-level work. But as I said, we actually literally were working on this slide, and I saw this Devin. I said, okay, this slide is already outdated. So again, things are changing fast, and that's the reason the GCCs are even better positioned, because you can be that much more agile, right? You can experiment, and without a lot of budget to do that. So,
are you saying that we can actually go hire a development agent?
For next year, we may not be doing the speech either, right?
No. So to be honest, the why was super clear, right? The what is something that you can do, and this is how you do it, right? What we then wanted to do is what is actually happening out there. Right? We went and took some of the best stories, because this transformation is happening within the Indian system, within the GCCs out here. So we went and said, okay, let's get a few stories that you can emulate today, that you can draw inspiration from, and said, if that can be done, you could do that within your center, and how can you transform the enterprise, right? So we'll show you a few stories in terms of what's actually being done.
So, some of this work is already started in India, so there are some examples, right? SAP, the head of AI, they have a product called Copilot Joule. The head of Copilot Joule sits out of the Bangalore office. The head of AI security and strategy sits out of the Bangalore office. And this team is now setting the AI strategy for all of SAP, multi-billion-dollar corporation. It's not happening in Waldorf or in the US, happening right in Bangalore. So things are already starting to happen. Here are some examples of how you can take the lead. So.
The second thing went back to what Amit said in the presentation back when he said, what are the DNAs of an AI-first organization? He fundamentally said the organization is flat, right? So he actually went on in his longer interview saying that even for 10,000 people organization, you can have just 4 levels. You don't need to have 10 levels, 12 levels that we have today. The more levels, the more hierarchical that your organization is, the less agile that you are. The ability for you to actually start to do things. So one of the things consciously that was done was to collapse these levels. Consciously look to see how can we drive more decision-making and autonomy. Broadridge did that, right? It did that a couple of years ago when it went ahead and changed their organization structure, made it a lot more nimble by just flattening the organization to a large extent. What they went ahead and did was also to co-locate the teams. They called it zero distance. They called it zero distance between what they wanted to achieve between a prompt engineer to an AI developer to a data scientist to their developers and so on, or including product owners as well. So they put that team together, and a lot of their GPT work, their Ops GPT, for example, or the Bond GPT work, which is the fundamental to what their organization does, now gets developed out of the center here. So that is what we said, okay, let's consciously think of, is a structure really wired for development in the AI world, or should we collapse that structure, right? Should we make it easier for people to actually do that? So that was an org design, and a conscious way to do that is critical for AI success as well.
It appears like I'm Sunil Gavaskar making controversial statement after a commentator makes. So Shell is another, old company. We think, but they are actually taking a lot of. They are actually have a AI academy. They hire the talent. They make them go through 18 months of training just in AI technologies, and they're building that AI talent and culture within our company to make this possible. And this talent is now incorporated across the globe in their data science teams. So really, again, India taking the lead of changing Shell, which is a multi-billion-dollar company, which was obviously hundreds of years, more than a century old. So.
Right. And one of the fundamentals from an AI standpoint is the infrastructure, is the data, right? So data and infrastructure is the oxygen, and we know that, right? So without we having large amounts of data and intelligence and the infrastructure to provide it, our ability to orchestrate agentic work would be difficult. And if the GCC today, or the India Center today, I should remove the term GCC, the India Center today is able to actually develop that infrastructure for enterprises to use, that would be just simply awesome, right? And that's what Pepsi has done. So what PepsiCo has done within their center in Hyderabad, they've got leaders out there, but they've created a data architecture, a data mesh, which has actually democratized data. And that puts the data in the hands of the actual users, so into finance, into supply chain. So it actually got data into their hands. And now, what does that enable them, the business users, to do is saying, okay, they've got real-time data, they've got enriched data, they've got that data that is coming in from the right sources, they can start to spin up agents on top of that, right? So the aspects of enabling AI for the enterprise and creating that structure, Pepsi was a great example of how they created those teams to make sure that they're able to provide the data infrastructure that can enable agents to be spun up across the enterprise, right? So I thought it was a great example for us to share.
And continuing the same theme, Goldman Sachs, they actually created a data lake and a Gen AI lab right here in Bangalore, which is now being used across the company. Again, starting right in Bangalore and used across the company. Entire decision making about what kind of data, how do you clean up the data for, make it usable and what are the risk and governance which are required to make sure that we are not, all the security and compliance issues are taken care of, all driven out of the Bangalore office. So,
does that mean that each of these organizations are AI first? Not necessarily, I should also tell you that. But when you put all of this together, when you layer aspects of strategy, leadership, ownership within the account, flattening the organization for better agile ways of working, reorienting your job descriptions, the people that you're hiring, and looking at workforce as a model for people and agents to work together, and then you create the infrastructure for agentic work, and then you layer that with risk and compliance, bang, that's your recipe, right, in terms of what you want to do. Right? So those are some of the stories that we thought we should look at to say, okay, what are the kind of changes that you should be doing within your organization that can actually help you get further?
Actually, my alumni, I worked at Intuit, and they just released the agentic AI agents for the small business accounting, completely built out of the Bangalore office. There's a video, you should check it out online. Really nicely done. So again, there are a lot of examples of these companies here are already leading it. It's just, as I said earlier, creating the right leadership environment to make it happen. So.
Right. So what do we want to leave with you, right? First of all, what we want to say is, don't just do AI, don't take it as a bolt-on, don't take it as I'll adopt AI, drive AI, right? Be AI, drive AI for your organization, right? So for that, own the agenda. Sometimes I do feel that in India, and I can be provocative here, is to say India is reluctant, right? It's almost like a reluctant participant into the journey. They would love to do things, but they sometimes just hold back for a second. And I'm saying, don't hold back, right? This is your time. You got the talent, as what Nilesh just said. Drive the transformation with bold ambition. Take accountability for your overall enterprise, not just for your center.
And then obviously, where do you start? So one of the ways we recommend is assess where you are in the maturity framework which we mentioned, and then see what changes you can make. We have worked with a lot of companies to figure out what are the right ways. Obviously, each company has its own requirements and own things they need to do. So making that first step of assessing what your needs are, where do you want to go, it will be a good way to get started.
And we got a great framework to do that.
That's right.
So if you want some help for that, come to Zinnov. We'll actually got a great framework that we can help you do that for you. And the other point is, I would also say, don't go and ask to say, okay, help me do AI for your organization. It doesn't work that way, really. right? So tell them about, okay, I've got this. We show them real wins, show them transformation stuff that we've actually done. Take your recruitment process, completely make sure that that's already done by agentic. Take your development process, take your finance process, for example, and drive agentic. If you're able to show those, your trust and credibility definitely grows. Now, I'm preaching to the choir, you know this, right? But I thought we should put it out there as a framework in terms of what you need to be doing.
And the one other thing which, and this is very important, this is personal to me, that you need to pitch outcomes, not tasks, not activities, right? And that should be not only at the leadership level. Every engineer should know what the impact they're having on the business, on the customer, right? That's why GCCs should outshine, because only GCCs can understand. If you're working through an outsourcing company, they don't know the customer, but GCCs know the customer, right? Your customer is not the headquarters. I hope everybody knows that, right? The customer is the end user of your products. So make sure every engineer is thinking, how am I impacting the customer? How am I impacting the outcome for the business? Because that's where you lead the transformation. So.
Right, and especially when you go to a CFO and say, give me 2 million for doing AI transformation, you're not likely to get it. But if you say, give me 2 million to actually say, I've improved my customer experience by 10x, or if I'll actually reduce my order inventory by 30%, then you're actually going to likely to get that particular money for you to drive it. So the point of that is influence your global AI strategy. Talk to the business leaders. Better still, own it up and create those roles over here. And the SAP example was a great one. The Pepsi example is a great one, where all of the global leaders for driving that agenda is actually sitting over here, right? And that complete ownership, complete accountability and driving it. And influencing them becomes very, very critical for us.
So I know we are running out of time, but you saw the video and it started with saying, now is your moment to lead. And I truly believe that you should read that video or look at that video again. India does not trail behind, it sets the pace. Empowered by minds and unshackled by legacy, fueled by an ecosystem vibrant with boundless creativity and driven by hunger, no algorithm can quantify. This is our moment, so let's snatch it.
Right.